Sorry about starting the new year with a delay. I have a knack for getting sick right at the new year. I've definitely still been reading though, and for the first review of 2013, I give you Dear Life by Alice Munro. This is not the first collection of Alice Munro stories I've encountered. If you haven't read her before, I like to call Munro the short story writer for people who don't like short stories. That's because her short stories are often about 30 to 40 pages long, compared to some of the other collections I've reviewed on this blog where the stories are only about 10 pages, or maybe even less. That means that you get much more character development in this book, more time to adjust to the situations that they're in. One of the things that's different about this collection, though, is that the last few stories Alice Munro writes are the closest to autobiographical she's ever come. She writes, "I believe they are the first and last and the closest things I have to say about my own life." In these stories, Munro feels almost like an outsider in her own skin. So it's no wonder Munro's stories contain protagonists, often women, who are out of control in their lives. Or worse, give up that control. They're present, but not always active players in their own lives. In one story, Munro remembers scaring herself by thinking she could strangle her sister in her sleep. After many sleepless nights, her father tells her many people have those thoughts and just don't act on them. She remembers this moment profoundly, a time when she and her father connected over something when they were so often disconnected on so many other issues. And when I look back at the rest of this collection, I see these kinds of moments scattered everywhere. Moments where an internal choice becomes an external one, and where two people meet on this one issue in one moment that changes their direction forever. I mentioned before that many of these characters feel like observers in their own stories. But many of these stories also take place in a different time, especially a different time for women. Many questions lie in what we think when we read these stories. Like, is this a time that's past? Today, is it possible that more women can and do take action to direct their lives where they want to go? Or is the harder lesson that these stories still speak to us about the things that we don't say, the battles we choose not to fight, and that sometimes important moments are past before we even realize how important those moments were? It's a great reminder that life is made up of small moments, and not big ones, that we can't always predict which moments will become important later. They just happen when they happen. This is Dear Life, and you're watching Brave Little Books.